morning. And to you, my little butterbean. So last time when we were talking about the things that have helped me stay plant-based for as long as I have, 16 years, I talked about avoiding protein powders. And one of my biggest gripes with protein powders is that they are full of artificial sweeteners, which are now found in products far beyond protein powders. They're pretty much in everything. And that's a big problem, because the thing is that your body is not actually that stupid. No, your body is actually highly intelligent and extremely efficient. So much so that when your taste buds register sweetness, your pancreas is designed to anticipate the glucose that is going to be making its way into your bloodstream very quickly, and your pancreas goes ahead and starts releasing insulin. So you taste something sweet, your pancreas releases insulin and starts clearing your bloodstream of the glucose that was already there to get ready for all of this fresh sugar that's going to be making its way through your stomach and intestinal linings and into the bloodstream. This is part of what is called the cephalic phase response. But artificial sweeteners, screw with it. They mess with the miraculously elegant orchestra that is your glucose metabolism. I mean, just look at it. Just look at that. This is just a small slice of all of the chemical reactions and metabolic pathways that your body initiates every time you eat sugar. I mean, does that not blow your mind? Such hubris to think that we could start tweaking this and manipulating it to make it better, or to make changes without, like, unanticipated consequences. But anyway, the basic premise, the too long didn't read version of this. You taste sweetness, insulin goes up, blood sugar goes down. But what if you taste something really sweet and then little or no sugar arrives? Yeah, this part isn't rocket science. You get low blood sugar, and you probably don't have to be told at this point in your life what happens when you have low blood sugar. Yeah, you feel tired, you're cranky, you feel perpetually hungry, and you have crazy sugar cravings. And that's just how you feel. It doesn't even talk about what's happening physiologically. But before we dive into that, I am feeling ready for my morning dose of glucose. So I am going to go have breakfast. I will check in with you there. How's my love bud? Ooh, it is one of my 3 favorite times of day. Breakfast. Can you guess the other 2? And I have a big, beautiful, fruity breakfast. Some mammy sapote that fell off of my tree a few days ago and ripened, plus some frozen mango and frozen blueberries from Azure, and some flax seeds freshly ground up, as well as a couple of Brazil nuts to get my daily selenium. And I'm looking at it and realizing that it just looks like quite the mess. But I know that it's going to be delicious. And that's what matters. Maybe some people eat with their eyes. I for sure eat with my mouth. I think that's just something that people who don't let themselves mouth eat enough say. Hashtag mouth eaters do it right. Probably actually don't look up that hashtag. There's nothing there any of us want to see. So you may know this about me already, but I am a huge fan of gigantic fruity breakfasts. And for many, many years, I also ate fruit for lunch and as part of my dinners. Hashtag my crazy raw vegan years. But actually, eating all of that fruit was, I think, one of the best parts of my crazy raw vegan years. Because prior to those years of my life, I had been plagued. And I mean plagued, like disturbed, like tormented by carbohydrate cravings. Mostly for sweet things, but also for things like pasta and bread. And of course, because I am a millennial woman, I came of age during the Atkins craze, which meant that carbs were bad. And if you wanted to lose weight, you needed to restrict your carbohydrates. So I was trying to do that. But man, oh man, the cravings ruined my life. Because as we all know, it doesn't just stop at cravings, because eventually everyone loses their willpower to resist the cravings and you binge. and you binge. It's what happens. There's nothing wrong with you. You just have this really cool human brain that runs exclusively on carbohydrates. And so when you're not getting enough carbohydrates, your really amazing, incredibly smart human brain makes you crave them. The brain will always get her glucose. She doesn't care what promises you made. She doesn't care what you want to look like in a bikini. She doesn't care how late it is at night. Sooner or later, your brain will have you standing in front of that refrigerator or freezer or rummaging in the pantry getting the glucose that she wants. And artificial sweeteners, they don't cut it. They don't scratch that itch. They don't provide the glucose that your brain so desperately needs and demands. And so what artificial sweeteners are actually doing is trying to gaslight your brain. And oh boy, I don't know if you have ever tried to gaslight a smart woman before, but she doesn't fucking like it. And she will get back at you. Your brain wants glucose, artificial sweeteners won't cut it. And so one of the best things that ever happened to me was going through my crazy raw vegan phase and having permission to load myself with carbohydrates. 80% of my calories from carbohydrates, most of it from fruit. My sweet tooth was so satiated. And I gotta tell you, the feeling of living inside of a body with a satiated glucose monitor is like one of the best feelings possible. I am so grateful that I get to live this way every day of my life. When I satiate my body and my brain's desire for glucose, there are no cravings. Life is so much better. And I feel like a genuinely happy, healthy, content, stable woman. So anyway, I'm going to enjoy this beautiful, naturally sweet, glucose and fructose rich breakfast that is going to fuel my body and brain and really stoke my glucose metabolism cycle in such a beautiful, ornate, complex way. And I think I'm going to take this beautiful bowl outside because it's actually a sunny day. Honey, you can't just take bites of other people's food. It's rude. You do know I love you. Now don't beg. Oh my goodness. Okay, so at this point in human history, we have been studying the effects of eating sugar for a while. And we know the results aren't great. And since the average person is eating like at least 17 grams of added sugar a day, it must be better to replace some of that with artificial sweeteners, right? Like that would make sense. But tragically, if you look at the research, despite all of the hype about artificial sweeteners that mostly comes from industry sources, BT dubs, the hype just doesn't pan out. And I think instead of all of us having to personally go through all of the research about artificial sweeteners, hundreds of thousands of papers, much of which is industry funded and therefore biased, I think this is a great moment to lean on my dear friend, Dr. Greger, who has done such a splendid job, just kidding, a splendid job, looking through all the research, parsing out what's industry funded from what's actually useful, paying a lot of attention when like rats or mice are used versus actual humans, and compiling the various benefits and negative effects of these artificial sweeteners. So I have linked down below many of Dr. Greger's videos about this subject. I highly recommend you watch them. But if you're busy and don't have the time, or if you just have a TikTok attention span now, I can again give you the too long didn't read version. Sugar alcohols are fermented by gut bacteria and tend to have a laxative effect, causing flatulence and diarrhea. Not great. Stevia is metabolized by your gut bacteria into steviol, which may have questionable effects. Still being studied. Allulose will for sure cause diarrhea, nausea, and stomach pain if you eat so much that it matches the amount of sugar that the average person eats, but it might impede sugar absorption in the gut a little bit and therefore like have some very unimpressive weight loss effects. Xylitol increases cardiovascular disease risk, including platelet aggregation and thrombosis, which means that it can cause clots. Very not good. Aspartame, perhaps the worst, increases cancer risk, particularly blood cancers, can increase or worsen depression, possibly by affecting dopamine and serotonin balance in the brain. It can also possibly affect learning and memory, as well as your general emotional functionality and irritability. Pretty much everyone reports nausea. A lot of people report headaches. And there were several cases of intractable fibromyalgia that disappeared when those patients discontinued their long-term aspartame use. And that is on top of the fact that almost universally artificial sweeteners increase blood sugar spikes after we consume them. So when you consume an artificial sweetener, like I said earlier, your blood sugar actually goes down a little bit. That's to be expected. There's sweetness without any glucose. But then the next time that person eats, their blood sugar goes through the roof, higher than if they had just eaten table sugar. What is that about? Artificial sweetener use, no matter what the type is also strongly associated with higher appetite later in the day. So even if you save a few calories by eating an artificial sweetener instead of actual sugar, your body, your brain makes up for it later. And you might be sitting there and saying, well, I'll just have better willpower about eating less throughout the day. That's not necessarily going to work because these are physiological changes. These are changes surrounding our glucose metabolism. These are changes to our gut microbiome that are causing metabolic shifts. So it doesn't matter what the trending artificial sweetener is. It doesn't matter if it's aspartame or sucralose or saccharin or mannitol or allulose or xylitol or sorbitol or erythritol or stevia or monk fruit. Anything that is sweet tasting seems to have this effect. And then each artificial sweetener seems to have its own suite of side effects. So even though the $10 billion a year artificial sweetener industry markets and sells these products to us under the premise that they are going to help us reduce obesity, that they are going to help us resolve diabetes and prevent a myriad of other chronic diseases, that foundational purpose appears to be a lie. These are not better for insulin control, they are not better for blood sugar control, they are not good for weight loss, and they are not effective for preventing diabetes or, as one researcher put it, metabolic derangements. And yet, those side effects, the ones we know about. Because y'all, I don't know how you think science works, but I know I grew up thinking, of course the scientists have looked into this. Of course the government knows. Of course the FDA is paying attention. They're not on top of it. They're not really paying attention. A lot of the times the research just isn't being done. Things are being approved as GRAS or generally recognized as safe. And generally recognized as safe doesn't mean it was studied. It certainly doesn't mean that any studies that were done were looked at for being industry funded or not. In my humble opinion, after watching these things happen for the last 20 years, it seems that generally recognized as safe means bribed. Prove me wrong. But I am getting myself worked up, so I'm gonna go have some lunch. I will of course show you guys what I have, and then we will pick this conversation up afterwards. You better believe it. And it is lunchtime. If I can gingerly tilt your perspective downward. Come. There we go. Oh, look at it. It's so yummy, yummy. I have 2 medium russet potatoes, which I diced up and then completely hid underneath hummus with a pile of lentils in the middle because, as you might notice, there are no vegetables on this plate. Oh my gosh, can't believe it. So I smeared some tomato paste on top of my spiced lentils. And then I added a little bit of salsa that I had open in the fridge, as well as a dollop of stone ground mustard right there in the middle. That is from Azure, and it is the best mustard I've ever had. So I am going to relish this delicious whole plant food lunch. All from leftovers. It took me literally less than 5 minutes to throw it all together. And even though I kind of made it look pretty, I actually like my food all smushed up like this. I like smush food. Oh, they're so good. And there's so much fiber and resistant starch in it. And try as I might, I just cannot figure out a way to relate this back to artificial sweeteners in any way. So I'm just gonna go eat this and then we'll get back to our artificial sweetener talk right after. Okay, that mouthful was like 100% mustard. 0 of 10, do not recommend. See, this is why you gotta smush better. Smush more. And this whole conversation about artificial sweeteners, it's not just an abstract thing. You and I have our own lived experiences of this as well. Because anytime we eat something that is unnaturally sweet, that could be sugar, that could be artificial sweeteners. Anytime we eat something very sweet, it like desensitizes our taste buds and the neural circuits in our brain that are dedicated to processing those kinds of flavors. And so it makes naturally sweet things like fruit taste bland. Because as smart as your brain is, she's also highly efficient and extremely dedicated to your survival. And she knows that a famine could come at any time, so she wants you to get the maximum amount of calories at every opportunity. And if something tastes sweeter, it means that it has more glucose in it. So you need to eat it now. She loves it when we mouth eat. And I've had these experiences through eating regular sugar and also artificial sweeteners. It makes normal, nourishing food taste like bland sludge. And why would you want to eat that when you could drink a birthday cake and pretend it's health food? My most recent experience with this was a foray into making my own almond milk, and so I bought some dried stevia leaf to make tea with. And that was a couple months ago, and since then, I've been using it to make the almond milk, and it works wonderfully. But then I also find myself, throwing it into my tea. Why not have sweet tea? And then I drink my sweet tea. And an hour later, I'm ravenously hungry, unusually ravenously hungry. And so I have my usual meal, it's not a big deal. But then I notice throughout the day my thoughts constantly flickering to, I should eat, something sweet would be nice. I'm hungry, I want a snack. And I notice that when I go to drink my normal unsweetened tea, it doesn't taste as good. It's not as appealing. And I'm not saying that it's bad or wrong to enjoy foods and drinks that taste sweet sometimes. I'm just saying that they have consequences. It has a consequence. And I'm noticing the consequence that it has on my mental health, my ability to focus, and generally how happy I feel about my diet and my food intake. It's a net negative effect. So I don't really know how many more times we're gonna let greedy, dishonest corporations mess with our glucose metabolism before we accept that it just doesn't work. There is no shortcut to health and well-being and feeling free around food. There is no way to drink a birthday cake without there being consequences. And in my experience, I don't like those consequences. I prefer to move through my days feeling easeful and relaxed and content and satisfied. And the best, easiest, cheapest, most beneficial, least risky way to do that is simply by eating whole plant foods. I know it's a surprise for you at this point. It's pretty foolproof, and I have to say, it feels really good when every time I open up my computer and make the mistake of going on the internet and see that this most recent trending food additive has, unsurprisingly, been linked to some really bad side effects and, unsurprisingly, didn't even do what it was supposed to do in the first place. When I can look at that article and just say, oh, well, I don't have to worry about that personally because I'm enjoying the thoroughly researched and experience-backed goodness of whole plants. I've said it before, I'll say it again, they're the cheat code to life. The sooner that we accept that that's true and that there's no shortcut, there's no way around it, there's no way to cheat this system, the sooner I think we'll be able to transcend all of this dietary and health chaos, come home to ourselves, and get to feel really content and wonderful on a regular basis. So with that, I'm gonna call this rant a day. I will see you for dinner. I will also show you Tobias. Puppy. And here we are. Full disclosure, it is not dinner time. The day that I filmed this was actually my mom's birthday, and I ended up getting swept up in a little wave of grief and not feeling so great and not wanting to be on camera. So, my suction cups are not sticking like they're supposed to. I did end up having a really yummy dinner. It was just some basic cabbage, one of my yummy go-to salads, and some pinto beans that were actually leftovers from last week, and just some brown rice. all topped with some tomato paste, nutritional yeast, and a little bit of tapatio. And it was a really yummy, filling, delicious dinner. And it was also everything that I ate today. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, a like is always very appreciated. Comments, I read every single one of them, and they mean a lot to me. And of course, if you're new here, subscribing is amazing. And as always, until next time, make better choices for yourself. No one else will do it for you. And take really, really, really good care of your precious, wonderful self. I will see you next time. Bye. That was satisfying. What is that? Oh, it's a chicken. There's a chicken's butt far away through a chain link fence. Weird color. When I say swallow your spit and then speak. Rats live in there. I'm kidding. They live everywhere else but my head. Or generally recognized as safe. Right. Bye, moped scooter gang. I like the freedom and the ease and the contentment. Oh, for fuck's sake. Hold on. Scooter gang incoming. I know what you're up to, mister. I'm gonna leave this here. We'll just see what he does now that he thinks I'm in the other room. I knew it. I said no. Just in case you were thinking how idyllic this life is, just remember it doesn't have audio.